Hey guys, Adam here from BRRRRinvest.com. Wanted to come to you today with another video, get into some of the fundamentals and the terms and things that we're thinking about as BRRRR investors when we're analyzing deals, talking about different projects, etc. One question I get from investors is, ROI, ROE, I hear these acronyms thrown around. Can you explain them a little better? Tell me what they mean and how do they specifically relate to me as a BRRRR investor. So that's what we want to do here today. Take you through a short video, get into those terms, show some examples, how you calculate them, and then what do they mean to you and how should you be thinking about them as you make investment decisions, whether that be a refinance, a sale of a property, acquiring a new project, all that really entails. So let's dive into it. Definitions: return on investment, ROI. Usually calculated as a percentage equal to the amount of money that you get back in a year versus the amount that you invested. So a really simple example is I have to put $100,000 into a project, whether that be through the acquisition, rehab, etc. So I have $100,000 out of pocket on the table subject to that investment. If I get $10,000 back that year, meaning $10,000 that goes back into my pocket after taxes, expenses, etc., I'm going to have a 10% ROI. So real simple, clean formula. Just divide the amount that you get each year on a net basis versus the amount that you leave in the project. So that's ROI, return on investment. ROE, this one tends to confuse people a little bit more because there's kind of more to the formula and defined terms within defined terms. So what's ROE? It's really calculated as the percentage equal to the amount of money that you get back in a year versus the equity that you have in a project. So we say equity, we got to think, what does that mean? Understand what that concept means as well. So what is equity? Equity really is the amount, the value of the property versus what you have invested in the property and also debt that you owe on the property. So real simple example, if you bought a house and you have a $100,000 mortgage on it and the value of the house is worth $150,000, you have the $50,000 difference, which is what is your equity in the property. We'll talk about what you can do with that, why that's relevant, why that's helpful to you as a BRRRR investor for doing more projects, etc. But that's really the equity that you have. So when we talk about return on equity, we want to know what percentage of that $50,000 that we have is coming back to us every year. So here's another example here. We have $10,000 coming back to us on an annual basis. You owe $80,000 on a property. That's a 12.5% annual ROE. And there's your formula there for reference, so you can quickly punch that in and take a look at properties that you have. What's the relevance? ROI, and people, there's a whole host of these. I'll get into some real simple thought process, but ROI is obviously great for understanding, is this a good buy? You're going to want to say, is my money working for me in a way that I think is sufficient? And we'll talk about this, but it really comes down to what your goals are. What percentage return do you need to get every year to make this a good investment for you? That's where your ROI comes in. ROE, really, the way I look at it, is most relevant for decisions about whether to sell a property or whether to take cash out of a property that you can then roll into another project or use for whatever purposes may suit you best. We'll look at the calculations so you can kind of understand what that looks like. So here, using the analysis tool that we have over on BRRRRinvest.com, I've looked at two properties here, and I wanted to show you kind of two different examples. So property number one is really your typical ROI, ROE scenario, potentially before you've refinanced on a BRRRR project, etc. But you're looking at 12.8% coming back to you on an annual basis with this investment based on the net income amount of $3,784 that we're showing there, and this is an average over 5 years. So there you can simply see, and that I would think would be a pretty good ROI for a single family home type investment. ROE, there we're saying, okay, I've got X amount invested in this property. My return every year is on that amount is 11.9%. So if we have 3,784 coming back to us on a net basis, probably somewhere in the project for about $30,000. So that's kind of how you look at it there. The next project, super high ROI, low ROE. What is this likely? This is a situation where you refinance the property, etc., and you really have little cash left in the deal. So you can get that 133.9% because I have less than $500 that came back to me in the project. So super high ROI, super low ROE. That's what makes this one interesting. So really, I'm not getting any kind of return on my equity because I have that $53,000 big amount of equity locked up in that project. So this would be one where we start thinking about, do we get a loan where we can take that money out, use it for another project? Do I even think about selling this property at this point? Maybe the market's reached a high here and this amount of equity is going to be appealing to me on a sale after I pay down taxes, etc., that I can use it for another project. You can run all these calcs yourself for all the projects you have over at BRRRRinvest.com. Free analysis tool, simple trial to sign up for you. So what do you do? What does it come down to? How do you take these terms, the numbers that relate to them, and make it into a wise investment decision? As with every investment decision, it comes down to your goals and how those decisions that you're making align with those goals. So if your goal is to scale rapidly, when you have those low ROEs, it might really be time for you to think about taking more money out of the project through a refinance or some other means, a HELOC, selling the property, etc., and rolling it into your next one. If you're happy with the high ROIs, you don't want to go that route, you're now looking for that quick scale, as you can see through the examples we've shown, it might be better for you to leave that money in, etc. So it all comes down to your goal. But what I wanted to do today was make sure you understood these terms, understood the terminology, make sure you can make that decision when it comes to you and faces you as a BRRRR investor. Thanks for your time. You can find me on the Facebook page, anywhere on contact information at BRRRRinvest.com. Hope you decide to check us out. Send me a note and we'll talk soon. Thanks again.